Hi everyone, Dr. Timothy Gallagher.
And Dr. Michael Marciello.
And we're from Maragal Medical. Well, the weather's getting chillier, it's October, it's football season, and we're midway through football season. This week we're going to be talking to you about some common injuries that we're seeing in our clinic with the football players and why Maragal Medical is going to be your point of contact for your injured athlete. You're not going to want to miss this one, so stay tuned. So we're about halfway through football season. As we know, our son Ainsley, he's a freshman at Lexington High. He's playing freshman football. We've been noticing a lot of his teammates have been injured. We just did a great series on laser treatment for athletic injuries. You and I played high school football, and we've suffered chronic injuries as a result. So what are some of the common types of injuries that are seen in high school football? And why is our clinic just well positioned to be able to quickly, get those injured athletes in for care?
Well, the most common, I think, for all athletes and all the fall sports in general is the cold temperatures come in and the kids are not just stretched out.
Yeah.
They're not prepared for their practices. The games come on and they're just too tight. A lot of strain injuries, a lot of musculoskeletal aches and pains because the muscles just get overstretched or get traumatized because they're not prepared for this type of work.
Yep.
And then you think about the repetitive strain to those same muscles. They're practicing every day. They're getting these hamstring tight, and the forearm muscles, the hip muscles. Those things are the typical things that we're seeing. And so we think about what happens also when we think about kids getting on the turf.
Yep.
They put on cleats, they put on new shoes, all these little mechanical changes start throwing the body off, and they're not telling their coaches that they're a little sore. Parents are really not really worried. They're seeing how they're playing. But those things then start adding up as the seasons go on. This is the time of the year, midway through the season, you start seeing who's having troubles.
Yeah, and we're seeing it directly just with, watching Ainsley go through. And of course, Colleen and I are in the profession, but when you start to see your oldest son like walking down the stairs like Frankenstein, even though they say they're doing some stretches, in the warm up before practice, it's that, every day that cumulative effect, and we've had to go the extra mile too. We've got some great resources with, big fan of the Peloton, so there's a video series that we do every night. We just put it on the TV. It's a big family thing. We do our family stretches for 10 minutes just to help on the preventative side too. But as you've noticed as well, these kind of, annoying injuries, certainly with contact sports, all the contusions, just getting, run into, kids getting used to being tackled, we can play a real, significant role in the recovery of the athlete without using, medication or surgery for that matter, by using some, really innovative therapeutic modalities like class 4 laser or even like a trigger point injection, right?
Yeah, we're trying to reduce that muscular strain. We're trying to reduce the inflammatory processes around the joints so we get the muscles attached to the bones and making the muscles, the joints move. But then we also have the ligaments underneath that, holding the capsule of the joint together. So we get the little small ligament strains, this little sprained ankle that kind of start in that first week or two in the season. And that's kind of making the person walk differently, run differently, all those little things that just constantly inflammatory irritation. And then there's these little, kind of sidestepping, there are all these little things that you're noticing, like you say, you're walking like a Frankenstein. Well, all those little joints, all those little ligaments that are kind of the precision sensors, they're the body's way in which we know how you're supposed to do things. The laser gets in there, tries to reduce inflammation, mobilization to kind of keep the balance of the way the person's moving. All those things are ways we try to start working at it and stay ahead of the game such that they can hopefully continue their season without having more injury.
Right, and obviously all the focus is like on concussions, right? And we've had 3 players that are currently out with concussions too. That's the big thing. But what I've also noticed as a parent in watching Ainsley go through this, some of those nagging injuries, it's interesting from the coaching perspective is, and we talked about this before, are you injured or are you just hurt?
Right.
And those nagging injuries, they can turn into more serious problems down the road too. So I always like to say at our clinic, we are really well positioned to get your injured athlete in right away. seeing you, again, Dr. Marciello is a board certified physiatrist. He's certified in physical medicine and rehabilitation. There is not a better specialist to evaluate your son or daughter for these types of injuries. So number one, make sure that it's appropriate that you get back to playing and clearing the athlete, but also too, to put together a real comprehensive treatment plan that includes chiropractic and physical therapy with that medical oversight, right?
Well, that's the whole key, is that most injuries we think about, okay, sport management aspects and really you're talking about an ACL tear, a major injury, the person's not going to return to play.
Right.
The concussion, the person has to be assessed appropriately by their coaches and by the medical team there at the field. But we're talking about these lumps and bumps and these aches and strains that all the student athletes go through.
Yeah.
Those are the things, like you mentioned, the nagging ones that really can kind of lead to other things. We want to keep those people active but prevent the worst of an injury, because they might be then set up to get these bigger injuries. The terrible trauma ones, without question, contact sports,
right.
It's a major deal. You got to get seen appropriately, you got to be pulled out of your team. But realities are most kids are playing and very few have big injuries.
Yeah.
So how do you get through those little things that just nag throughout the season? That's what we're talking about. That's what you just mentioned. Looking at the chiropractic adjustments and the modalities and the muscle treatments, laser, and again, mobilization, all these things keep a person going.
Yeah, and you don't want to be in our situation where you have those nagging injuries that weren't tended to right away, weren't treated appropriately, because when you get to be our age, you start talking about those old football injuries, like my shoulder, your knee, all of these things.
Right.
Simply put, we can really play a role in making sure that those injuries don't develop into chronic injuries. And you know what? If you do have a severe injury, wow, we've got some really innovative techniques in the form, for this age range, like a PRP injection. If you got a partial tear or like a meniscus tear in the knee, partial tear in the shoulder, we can really help to accelerate the healing with these injections with the younger athlete, right?
Unfortunately, when you're younger, your body does heal really quite nicely, but PRP as a platelet-rich plasma is aspects of way in which we concentrate the person's plasma, get it back into that injured site, and makes even the healing process even that much better. So we don't want to use cortisone in young children. We don't want to break down the tissue and degrade some of those tendon partial strains. But PRP could be quite a nice option. Again, certainly we have to assess the right indication for that. Not all injuries will need that kind of a treatment, but it's certainly available in our clinic if we needed to go to that extra mile.
Yeah, and if you're interested in learning about that, we got some great footage on our YouTube channel with my son Ainsley, who had a stress fracture in his foot. He was on the path of being out for about 12 weeks. We used a PRP injection right at the fracture site, and it got that fracture to heal within 4 weeks. So if you're interested in learning more about how you, as a parent, can get your injured athlete back on the field as quickly as possible and safely as possible, you're definitely going to want to call us at Maragal Medical. More information about our practice can always be found at our website at maragalmedical.com. Well, that's it for today. I hope you all learned something. We'll see you soon, okay?
Bye now.
Have a great day.